There is a condition in dentistry that is called cracked tooth syndrome, and it can be quite a big problem. In this video, I will explain what a cracked tooth is, what the common symptoms are, how to prevent it, and how to treat it. So, what is a cracked tooth? The name suggests it is a tooth that has a crack running through it. It is a bit like a crack in the windscreen of a car. It can start small, but it can spread and turn into a big crack. There can be a number of symptoms related to a cracked tooth syndrome, but the most common symptom is pain on biting and chewing. If you bite down on the cracked tooth, the crack opens and there is a shooting pain. Again, biting down, the crack opens and the nerve of the tooth sends a shooting pain. Or a completely dislodged part of the tooth can cause pain in the gums. Why does a tooth crack in the first place? A good and healthy tooth rarely cracks. It is structurally sound and it is an amazing engineering masterpiece that withstands enormous forces. But a decayed tooth or a filled tooth is structurally weakened and a crack can form. Generally speaking, most cracks develop under amalgam fillings, in root canal treated teeth, when grinding, clenching, or possibly a combination of the above. Now, this is a generalization and doesn't cover all of the reasons why teeth are cracking, but in my experience, it covers most of them. Let's look at amalgam. The teeth are structurally damaged. The problem with amalgam is it oxidizes, it leaks mercury, and it expands. So there's a lot of internal stress. Just like in a thermometer, the mercury with the amalgam filling expands and contracts with temperature changes. That puts additional stress on the remaining tooth structure. So when chewing on a tooth like that, it can lead to fractures in the remaining tooth. Here, for example, where a complete wall broke off. Or here the amalgam was removed and a crack is splitting the tooth in two halves. Now let's look at root canal treated teeth. After root canal treatment, the tooth is pretty much hollowed out, leaving a shell of a tooth with only the walls still standing. The tooth is weak and it can crack, like in this tooth, right through the center, separating the tooth in two. This tooth cannot be saved, it needs to be removed. And of course there's grinding and clenching. It can cause cracking because it puts a lot of extra stress on teeth. Grinding or clenching or bruxism is a whole new subject for a different video. How do we find out if a tooth is cracked? How do dentists establish a diagnosis? Diagnosis of a cracked tooth syndrome is notoriously difficult. Cracks are mostly hidden under fillings and there are often no obvious signs. A combination of tests needs to be applied. X-rays are important. They generally do not show a crack but are essential to rule out other problems. Cold tests or temperature tests will reveal if the nerve of the tooth is vital. That's when the dentist takes a cold cotton bud and touches the tooth. A vital tooth can react quite strongly, and that is not necessarily a bad sign. It just means that the tooth is alive. A dead tooth does not react to the cold trigger. A bite test needs to be done. You can try at home biting on a cotton bud. If you feel pain, there could be a crack in the tooth. We need to inspect the gums around the tooth for tenderness and swelling. But in many cases, removing the existing filling is the only option to find out if there is a crack. And how do we prevent a crack in the tooth? Well, avoid amalgam fillings if you need a filling. Amalgam expands and contracts within the tooth. It does not bond the remaining tooth, and also it releases toxic mercury. So if you need a filling for small to medium-sized cavities, use composite material. It bonds and reinforces the remaining tooth structure. And anyway, it looks much better and it does not contain the toxic mercury. Teeth with large fillings are more at risk, and therefore a crown for a large cavity is a better option. A root canal treated tooth generally needs a crown to properly stabilize it. If your Abraxa, a night guard might be beneficial. It will distribute the forces more evenly over your teeth. But once again, if there's a crack, it needs to be taken care of ASAP. Early treatment is crucial to hopefully save the tooth. Once you notice there is pain on biting, you need to see the dentist urgently because a small crack can quickly spread further within the tooth. But if there's a crack, a crown is the best option. Crowns sit over teeth like a thimble sits on a finger. A crown embraces the tooth and holds any crack together when chewing. But again, some teeth cannot be saved. For example, when parts of the tooth are completely dislodged below the gum line, or when the tooth is completely split into two pieces. Again, if you have pain on biting, go and see a dentist as soon as possible. It needs to be checked out, and hopefully it's nothing too serious. I hope you enjoyed this video, and you can visit me on dentaldecoded.com. Thank you for watching.